Season 3 of Love Transform Evolve is brought to you by Dreams Financial. Alex and Steph have been my financial advisors for years, and that's no coincidence. They don't just see me as a client, but rather as a partner in building and protecting my wealth. Their personalized approach and innovative solutions have made financial planning a breeze. And I love the fact that they are in it with me, explaining everything as we go, and I always know where my money is going and why. And when it comes to the death of a loved one, Alex and Steph are experts at providing compassionate guidance, offering clarity and direction. For more information, you can visit their website at dreamsfinancial.ca. Our thoughts can betray us. We've heard from Dr. Rebecca Heiss about how, there are certain parts of our brain that get activated when we're in stressful situations that cause us to catastrophize situations. We heard from Dr. Amalia Issa about the different centers of the brain that think in certain ways, that have certain needs to make us make decisions in a sound way. Well, our lives are not just thinking, but they're also feeling, and having difficult situations thrown at us have both a mental and a physical impact. Caregiving is not just a physical or an emotional journey, but it's also a deeply spiritual one. And when we pour so much of ourselves into others, it's easy to feel disconnected from our own needs and our own energy. Self-care goes beyond the occasional bubble bath and glass of wine as well. There are other things that you can do to ground yourself, to be more present for yourself. And one of those ways is actually through sound healing and frequency therapy. Joining me in today's episode is Dalia Marom. Dalia is an expert in sound healing and frequency therapy. She's also a certified therapeutic yoga and meditation teacher, a sound therapist, a Reiki master, a hypnotherapist, and today we're going to explore how sound and frequency can bring us back to center, restore our energy, and help us move forward with greater clarity and peace. Thank you so much for being here, Dalia.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, it's so excited to have you here. So I really want to start with music and the role that music has played in my life. When I think about the role, I think about my relationship to music, if I hear a song, it makes me think of a particular person, like my mom or my dad. I've been known to cut up a dance floor and, lose myself in movement and lose myself just kind of in the vibe. When I was a teenager, I would sit at home and just when they had CDs, I would listen to CDs over and over again and just kind of really be taken somewhere with music. But sound healing is a little different than music. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of the differences of what sound healing therapy is compared to just listening to tunes?
Well, everything in the universe is energy and vibration, right? And so is everything in our bodies. So when our body is sick or stressed, it's almost like it becomes out of tune, like an instrument would be out of tune. So when we use these tools, some of them are ancient, some of them are new age, they all deliver a very high vibrational frequency. And when we're in that environment, our body entrains to the instruments, kind of like two clocks that are ticking together next to each other. The clock with the higher vibration, the clock that's more powerful, will eventually entrain the smaller clock to tick to the same rate.
So that's getting in sync together?
Exactly. So that's naturally what happens to our bodies when we're in an environment of sound healing. And also, with music as well, if we're kind of feeling low energy, low vibration, then all of a sudden we listen to a song that really makes us happy and lifts our spirits, our energy will literally shift to other vibration, So sound just works a little bit differently because we're not we're kind of moving out of that brainwave of staying in that vibe of kind of that waking state, and we're moving into what we call more of an alpha or a theta state. So we're slowing down our brain waves and we're relaxing our mind, our body, and we're sort of tapping into more of our subconscious mind. So out of the wakeful state, and that can be sometimes more energizing but also more stressful, into this more relaxed state. So sound healing really helps to sort of bring our body and our mind and our spirit into that more relaxed state. So it's not only the instruments themselves, but it's the way the instruments that are played that have the impact on the brain waves, and also on the experience that we have.
So what kind of instruments do you have that actually achieve this kind of allowing you to drop into your body and not constantly be kind of in the front of your brain and overstimulated there?
Well, I use a variety of instruments. The first instruments that I started working with were the Tibetan bowls, and actually here I have one right here that I can show. Um, and they basically, it's interesting because when you play them, I'll just, I don't know if that delivers through the internet well, but
Through the
yeah.
headphones to whoever's listening.
Yeah. So basically, they have a lot of different, and depending on how you play them, they have a lot of different tonalities. There's a lot of different, like if I would to put a tuner next to it, the tuner would go like this, because there's a lot of different tones that are coming out of the bowl. So it's not one particular tone; it's many different tones.
So for people who are not kind of familiar, I'll say, with the realm of the woo, and that's what I'll go with, because that's kind of what you're in, right? In hypnotherapy and
Yeah.
energy healing and all of that. What is happening really to me when I'm listening to that Tibetan bowl and the vibration? Like what, because in the top of my head, I'm going to be like, okay, that sounds, like it's a long extended sound. But when we talk about healing and dropping into the subconscious, what is happening to me?
Well, basically, essentially, your brain waves are slowing down, and you're actually brought into a natural meditative state. So, like I mentioned before, your brain waves are either slowing down into an alpha or even a theta state. Just below the theta state is the delta, which is deep sleep.
Okay.
And when you have a sound healing experience, when you come into either a private session or a group session, you're slowing down your brainwaves so that you're hovering just above the deep sleep, the delta state. And the delta state, and that's the sweet spot, really, because that's when we're slowing down our conscious mind, we're having access to our subconscious mind, and that's kind of the state that we want to stay in, for the deep healing to occur. Because when our body is relaxed, that's when our energy can rejuvenate, it can renew itself. When we're stressed, our body is tense, right? So the energy is not going anywhere, and we're holding on to that energy. So it's only really in a deep, relaxed state that we're able to renew and rejuvenate and restore our energetic sphere. What's really cool about sound healing too is that people who don't have any experience with meditation, sometimes people get intimidated by meditation because it's a big kind of buzzword these days. And, a lot of people think of meditation as just sitting and doing and not thinking and doing nothing for, an hour, 30 minutes, whatever. And that could be very intimidating, right? Because our mind is always buzzing, is always moving. What's really interesting and beautiful about sound healing, and I actually have a perfect example of this. I just had a private group with a couple this weekend that I was teaching, and I was working with them, and they had never experienced any of this. They never did any meditation. They had no experience prior, and they were able to get in this really amazing healing space, where their mind was just completely relaxed. They felt like it was like almost out of body experience for them, because they were in this beautiful, peaceful state. And the reason for that is because the bowls and the way the instruments are played will naturally put you in the meditative state. So you don't even need to do anything. You're not fighting against your thoughts, and you're not sort of like in this battle, like, okay, stop thinking, because then that's just multiplying the more thinking and making yourself wrong for thinking and not doing the exercise properly, right? So this a lot of times, I mean, it doesn't, it's always very individual based. Everybody's experience is different, but it was a perfect example this weekend working with these two beautiful clients, that of how the impact of somebody who's a beginner and using this medium and using this work helped to bring them in that in that state without any prior experience, so
That
that's
sounds
what I really love
amazing.
about it. Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And you think about caregiving and people who are actively in a caregiving role, there's a lot of doing. There's a lot of doing, there's a lot of going, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of, and a lot of in this space, I said this in the intro, there's a lot of people who will say to caregivers, like, you have to take time for yourself too, and you have to do self-care, and you have to, but oftentimes, that requires logistics, that requires planning, that requires more doing. And it sounds to me like, what you're saying, and I've, personally experienced it myself, though, is that being brought into this really, this state of peace, is accessible, to people who've maybe not done this before. So, if somebody wanted to, or if we were to like introduce somebody who didn't have a lot of time into sound healing, but did seek that kind of peace, that delta state that you're talking about, what would you recommend is an easy way to access that, for 5-10 minutes of their day? Where and how would they go about that?
Well, there's a lot of, thanks to the internet, there's a lot of really great, different sites that offer different types of frequencies that you could just kind of take a 5-10 minute break, at work, and listen to that, to help calm down the body and the mind. Even, it was funny. I had a conversation with a girlfriend over the weekend about this. If she's very much go, 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 like when she's at her job and she doesn't even want to get up from her desk. And we were suggesting, well, when you go to the washroom, just even while you're on the toilet at work, just take a few minutes to breathe, and even just our own voice. And I tell this a lot to my clients, is actually our most powerful sound healing instrument is our own voice. And just by even just humming gently to ourselves, or a technique that I often do with clients too in my one-on-ones is toning, is that we just start to tone different vowel sounds. And that also has a very nice impact on relaxing the body, relaxing the mind, taking us out of the stress mode and connected more to the parasympathetic nervous system, so that our body and mind just kind of go into this peaceful state. And that's just by toning, because when we're focused on the toning, we're out of the waking mind and we're back into being connected to our voice and our bodies, and we're naturally going into meditation that way as well. And it's very, very powerful.
It makes me think of, I just, in preparation for our session today, or our conversation, I was listening to music, and an ad came on for Huggies. And I know it's going to sound like I'm deviating a little bit here, but an ad came on for Huggies, that said that they now have an app where you can create a music playlist based on your heartbeat, inspired by your heartbeat, to help provide comfort to your child. And it goes with the rhythms of your own, as mama bear and papa bear, heartbeats. And it makes me think that our bodies, when we come into this earth, we come with the natural ability to heal each other through just that simple connection. And we maybe forget that, the older we get.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. Like, I really think the future is really, I mean, this is a very ancient practice too. There's evidence of it in many different cultures in our ancient societies. But I really feel like we're moving towards this becoming more and more mainstream, and just by, sharing that, like Huggies is a pretty big brand, and I wouldn't think of them to be in tune with that, but that's absolutely, and I have one of my instruments, it's called the lullaby drum, and it actually mimics the sound of the womb. So it has that comforting sound, that kind of puts people to sleep or puts people in a relaxed state, because
The Zen state.
our subconscious mind will remember, that tone. that frequency.
When my mom was in the hospital, she was hospitalized. So she had metastatic bladder cancer. And for most of the time, she was at home and I was caring for her full time. But when we were in the hospital, there were social workers and different types of services that came by to help her through, ease some of the pain that she had. And this was offered by the hospital staff, and they had different people who offered different types of modalities. And one of the things that was offered was the sound healing. And there was this session that my mother had, and I'm not certain if it's with the same drum, but it sounded like water, like with the sound of the beads.
Yeah, that's the lullaby drum
That's
or the ocean drum. Yeah. Or the ocean drum. Yeah. That's actually one of the favorites. Yeah. Of all my clients. They love it. Yeah.
And you were talking about frequency earlier. So what frequency is the lullaby drum at, or what are ideal frequencies that people should and could be looking for if they, don't get access to you, but they want to go online and try and find something to provide them with that peace?
Yeah. Well, there's so many different things. One of the frequencies that I work with the most is the 432 hertz. And most of my instruments are tuned into that hertz, and it's sort of considered to be the healing frequency of the earth. So it tunes us into the earth and the universal energy. And it has a very ability to bring us in this calming theta alpha state naturally. And it's interesting because all music has been tuned naturally into 440, but apparently I don't remember exactly the timeline of where it switched into from 432 into 440, which has a more aggressive impact on our brainwaves and on our state of being. And so when we listen to music on the radio, for example, it's all 440, right? But now, now that we're moving more into the 5D consciousness, as we call it, right? We're starting to be more and more in tune with other frequencies. And I mean, there's tons. If you, even just like there's frequencies that will align you with the different chakras, and there's many different ones. Frequencies that are more like heart centered, more grounding, more connected to universal energy as well on another level. So there's like many different, yeah.
So when you work with a client, and they come to you and they say, um, I'm feeling out of sorts. I'm uncomfortable. I don't know, I don't know who I am anymore. I heard of sound healing. Like, what is your process to work with them to uncover what their needs truly are?
So it's different when I work with people in a group versus like a one-on-one setting. So when I work with people one-on-one, first I like to get to know them a little bit and see like what they're dealing with. And, in this day and age, people are overworked. They don't have enough free time. There's a lot of pressure on them from home and the work environment. A lot of times people have, like you said, kind of lost their way too. They don't know who they are anymore because there's all these pressures of society coming from all different directions that we kind of lose our balance, or we lose our sense of focus to what's truly important to us. So, I start with the chat and get to know them a little bit. And then what's really important is what the intention is. What's your intention for the session? And, um, it's important to also focus on maybe one or two intentions, like not get caught, because I mean, we're not going to be able to resolve everything in one session. It's always a good idea to do a few sessions. When just like going to the gym, you're not going to go do one session at the gym and be like, okay, I have big muscles now. It's kind of the same thing.
Though, right?
It would be wonderful. But I mean, I do have clients that just come for a tune-up. They've been feeling stressed and they come for a tune-up, which is great. But if there's something that's very specific that they want to deal with or they want to work on, so basically, yeah, I start with the chat and then we create an intention together. So if it's, I feel really heavy in my heart area. I'm still kind of dealing with, a past relationship that I didn't fully get over, or I also, I have a lot of stress at work and at home, and I want to be able to manage that better. I can't think clearly and make decisions very well, so, there's all these things that people are dealing with. So essentially, what I do is, we start with the chat, and then afterwards I have them on the the table. Usually I use a massage table. Sometimes I have them on the floor. I have the instruments around, and I actually primarily work with my voice. So I use my voice as to scan the person's body. So I scan basically the chakra system completely. And for those who are not familiar with the chakra system, it's basically our main energy centers that um, on our body. So it starts with the root chakra, which is at the base of the spine, and then it goes all the way up to our crown, which is above the head. So, and each one of those energy centers govern a different aspect of our life. So, for example, our root chakra is how grounded we feel in our world. Do we feel secure in our environment right now? Do we feel fearful? If we're feeling, if we're not feeling a sense of security, or we're feeling fearful, it could be that that chakra is out of balance. And the chakra, when I say chakra, it's like it's described as a spinning wheel of energy. So when that energy vortex is not spinning at the frequency that it needs to be spinning, like it could be maybe, slow or too fast, then it means that, that area of the body is out of tune. So I work a lot with the chakra system. So to understand like different areas that are not balanced, and then bring the right healing and frequency into that area. So essentially, I'll use my voice. And this is a new technique that I've been doing just for the last couple of years now, studying with this amazing woman named Shelley Snow. And she developed her own technique, really just focusing on using the voice, which is really amazing because, and she's actually a music therapist and a sound therapist and a psychotherapist. So she kind of took it out of the woo-woo world a little bit, and, did tons of research, clinical research on this, peer reviews, stuff like that. She's written an amazing book too. So taking you out of, because for me, it's like I always had so many instruments, so that simplifies it a little bit, but is just as powerful. So I would sing, I would um, do vowel tones, or usually use one frequency of my voice along the body of the person to understand where what we call dissonance. So where it kind of feels like the frequency, or um, that area of the body, that particular chakra is maybe out of tune, out of balance. And I could hear it just by with my voice. So I would do that first, and then I would work on that area, either sounding into their body, and then also using my instruments to complement. So I also, because I have a background also, I'm a certified hypnotist as well. So I use a lot of hypnotic elements. That's why my business is called Sonic Hypnotics, because I primarily use hypnosis and sound therapy together, as a double medium. So I will also incorporate like helping them, uh, the the clients go into a very deep state of meditation as well. So it kind of gets them in their body. And what I also really like to do, so it's not me um, being like the healer per se, is I really get my clients actively involved in their own healing process, which I think is so important. I mean, we're innate healers within ourselves. Everyone is. It's just some of us have been more tapped into how that healing works, than others. I've been doing this work for over 10 years now, so I have a good grasp on it. But I think it's really important to get the clients involved as well. And I do that in my group sessions as well as my individual sessions. So essentially, a lot of times I allow the clients to incorporate their own voice. So if I see where the dissonance is in the body, I'm working on that particular body. Let's say, for example, it's in the heart. There's a lot of dissonance in the heart energy. So I'm singing into the heart, I'm using vowel tones. Then I'll also encourage the client to join in with me. Um, and as they visualize, like I'll give them some exercises to awaken or get in touch with their heart energy, get in touch with the frequency of that area through visualization, through color, through sound of their voice. And it will help take the experience to another level by releasing even more than if it was just me working on the body. Because when you're involved in your own healing, it's even more powerful. It takes things to an even higher level
Like,
because yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, what strikes me by everything that you're saying is that really, you're helping people reconnect to themselves and really helping people understand, who they are, what might be off with, inside their bodies, and what just might be off in their own personal lives. And I think again about like a caregiver role where there's so much thinking about other people and there's so much like taking other people into consideration that what a gift you're able to give someone who comes to see you and is just reminded of the fact that they are a part of this bigger thing that we call life, right? And you're able to help them just reconnect a little bit and give some of that energy and the doing that they're giving to somebody else to make sure somebody else maintains some type of wellness or health, that they also offer that back to themselves.
Absolutely. And it's so easy, just even being a mom, I'm a victim of that too sometimes, of like you give all your attention, then you start to forget about yourselves, and we're so out of touch with ourselves too. We ignore these subtle signs until our body is screaming for us to pay attention, right? So if we could just take that time to just really go within, and even when we're in this calm, peaceful state, not only does it help us relax in the moment, but when our minds are not so busy and going off, our neurons are not going off like crazy of all the things we need to do, and all that other stuff, we can actually come into silence and we can make the better decisions from that place. So we're not making a decision out of fear, we're making more of a decision that's more heart-based, or that's maybe in the greater good of, for ourselves, for other people involved. That's, and that comes from being in a peaceful state. We don't make good decisions being in a stressful state, right?
And sometimes we're not given the opportunity to be in the peaceful state, like we're just thrown into it. But every time we have a moment to take a step back and reflect, to remind us that peaceful states exist and to take
Oh,
advantage of that is so
absolutely.
important.
Yeah.
So I have one last question for you, and that's more around. So we've been talking a lot about healing and coming to a peaceful state of helping with stress management. But how would somebody use this sound healing for a personal growth? How could they use it to help them transform? A lot of the times, people who are caregiving, their caregiving comes to an end, and then they're kind of left sitting there trying to figure out what to do next. How could they leverage sound healing to do that?
That's a great question. Well, I think any turning point in life, there's always like a lull, between one phase and the next phase. And, just going back to what I was saying about, slowing down the brain waves and coming into this peaceful state, we can have a better connection with ourselves, our soul journey, our soul mission, if you will, and kind of, get signs for what's the next step. And, sometimes it will be a little bit of time before we get there. We have so much pressure from society and everything that we need to always be on the go. We always need to be knowing which direction we're going and what's the next step, right? But, some of the greatest writers, even, when they go through creative periods where the creativity is just flowing out of them, and then they go through a lull where there's nothing coming. And I think it's important just to be in acceptance of that lull, and just really sit with yourself and not feel the need to move forward because of the pressures of society or family or whatever, and just accept where you're at, and I think that goes with anything, is just acceptance is really the first step, right? We always want to get to the destination of everything all the time, but really life is in the journey. That's where all the discovery happens. And and sometimes we might not have the answers yet. And that's a beautiful place to be too, is just that discovery of, through, working with yourselves and through experimenting or trying on new avenues, then you'll discover where you ultimately need to be. I mean, I didn't get to where I am today doing this work, overnight. It was a whole journey. I came from a background in acting, and we knew each other from that's when we were kids, right? And I was a singer-songwriter. I still am a singer-songwriter. So I came from a very creative background. But then and then I did my yoga teacher training, and towards the end of that, I discovered sound healing. And then it was like a light just switched on in my brain. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly where I need to be. And it's just amazing. You go through life and sometimes you'll make mistakes. Maybe you'll do the wrong program in university, or, go down there, or have the wrong, take on the wrong job, but it doesn't matter. Those are all tools and stuff that are going to help you. I worked in marketing for over 10 years, and I don't look back at it like that was a waste of time. I look back at it as like, oh my God, I learned so much of that to even apply to my life now, and everything in life is, if we look at life more as a journey and not a destination, and just enjoy the ride, I think that's the beauty of life. That's what makes us who we are today, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dalia, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I'm so grateful for you. If people want to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
Well, they can visit my website. So, www.daliamarom.com, or Sonic Hypnotics on Facebook, SONIQHYPNOTIQS. And that's also on Instagram as well. So either through Dalia Marom, my official name, or Sonic Hypnotics, my company name. I also do online stuff as well. So if anybody's listening and they want to be a part of this journey, but they're not in the city, there's the online option as well. So there's that opportunity for that too.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you like what you heard today, be sure to rate, follow, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Cynthia Iorio. Until next time.